This is a lesson on Greco-Roman mythology, the third part of the epic cycle video cycle. In part one, we went over the Cypria of Stasinos and included such topics as the marriage of Peleus and Thetis, the judgment of Paris, the rape/kidnapping of Helen, the mustering of the Greeks, Iphigenia at Aulis, Philoctetes marooned, and 9 years of war at Troy. In part 2, we went over the Iliad of Homer, 24 epic, thrilling books of excitement, jam-packed full of the rage of Achilles, including the death of Patroclus, his best friend, and it ended with the death and funeral of Hector, tamer of horses. We now move on to part 3, the Aithiopis of Arktinos. 5 books, so fewer than the last 2, including such amazing, awesome, and epic things as the arrival and deaths of Penthesilea, Queen of the Amazons, and Memnon, King of Ethiopia, Trojan allies both, and also the death of Achilles. So before we get into what's actually in the Aithiopis, which will end with the death of Achilles, I'd like to do a little flashback. All the way back to the birth of Achilles. So this is not really in the Aithiopis, but it sets it up nicely. So the Aithiopis of Arktinos, or when you dip a baby in the sticks, make sure you double dip. That'll end it. Just make sure you double dip. Come on. Also, the Styx is pretty polluted and, pestilential. It's pretty disgusting. So, I don't know, maybe keep your babies out of it. So, this is not what I meant when I asked you to put the baby down for a nap. When Achilles was born, way back when, Thetis, so the sea goddess, Achilles' mother, holding her newborn son, realized he's going to die. I'm immortal. I'm an immortal goddess. So Thetis, an immortal goddess, daughter of Nereus, old man in the sea. She's a sea goddess. She thinks to herself, I'm immortal. I'm not going to die. But my dear sweet baby boy in my arms is going to die. The thread spun for him by the fates, it has an end. If only there were ways to circumvent that. Pain, panic. Got a little riddle for you. How do you kill a god? I do not know. Actually, let's ask in reverse. How do you make a god? Well, it's simple. So, mommy goddess and a daddy god love each other very, very much. Actually, almost every story we know about, at least Zeus, gods making other gods that way, doesn't really involve that much love. So discard that. Okay, so how do we make an already existing mortal, a baby in this case, immortal? Well, one of those prescribed methods, there's more than one. Yeah, apparently there's more than one way to skin a cat or make a mortal immortal. So this is one of them. It's not just changing out your blood in Switzerland or something like a car gets an oil change. Look into that. But anyway, here we have a little drawing here of Demeter. And she's doing one of these prescribed methods with, I believe this is Demophon, Prince of Eleusis, during one of her travels while she's looking for her daughter Persephone, kidnapped by her brother, Persephone's uncle. Ew. She gets so upset that she takes a liking to this baby and decides she's going to make this baby immortal. So here's how you do it. You take the baby, feed the baby nectar and ambrosia, the drink and food of the gods. Okay, cool. And then, stay with me here, build a roaring fire Yeah, once that fire gets going, it's good and hot. Take the baby, and then put the baby, please don't say on the fire. No, what do you mean on the fire? No, it's okay. Normally don't do this. Normally do not put babies on fires. But you've given that baby nectar and ambrosia. Therefore, it should be okay. What the fire is doing now is not harming the baby. See, look at the drawing. That kid's having an okay time. He's not freaking out. Like, that's not the face of someone that's, in pain being, immolated. So that baby's having fun because his immortality, or I'm sorry, his mortality is being burnt away by the flames, making way for his immortality bestowed upon him by the food and drink of the gods. Is that all it takes? That's all it takes. In this story, where Thetis is going to do this to Achilles, it's going to take 3 sequential full moons. So you got to hit them in sequence. 1, 2, 3. So 3 months. What if there are 2 full moons in 1 month? Be quiet, you. So 3 full moons. 1 full moon, then the next full moon, then the next full moon. You screw it up, it's done. The ritual, it's ruined. So this is what Thetis tries to do. So in the night of the full moon, everyone else is asleep. She wakes up. Around midnight, the witching hour, she creeps out of bed. She retrieves, the best of her ability, baby Achilles from his cradle without making him cry, without making too much noise. She is a goddess after all. Takes him into the other room, builds up a roaring bonfire, or fire in the fireplace, and then feeds the baby nectar and ambrosia and puts the baby on the fire. And the fire begins to burn away his mortality. She then puts the baby back in the crib, and the next full moon repeats the process. The third and final time she's going to do this. So on the night of the third full moon, she creeps out of bed like normal. She very quietly, quickly retrieves the baby from the cradle, feeds some nectar and ambrosia, lights the fire in the hearth. She's putting the baby on the fire when that night Peleus happened to wake up. Maybe he needed to use the bathroom. Maybe thirsty, want some warm milk or water or something. So he's going to go to the fridge. He goes past that. There are no fridges in this time. I know. So he leaves the bedroom. And he goes past the main room where the hearth is. He does a double take because he sees that there's a fire in the hearth. Okay, wait, is that my baby on the fire? Rubbing the sleep from his eyes, he's like, yes, that is my baby on the fire. And he runs in, grabs baby Achilles off the fire, and starts to yell at his wife Thetis. What do you think you're doing? Are you trying to kill our son? Remember, she's an immortal goddess. He's immortal. She's not used to being talked to this way. Also, she's got to explain herself to this guy that she's never really trusted. Remember, she was sort of given to him at the start of this story. And he has now ruined the thing that she was trying to do, and it wasn't easy, to make her son immortal. So he might, from a certain point of view, be understandably upset because he thinks that his wife is setting their son on fire. But also, from her point of view, she's just doing what she has to do, and she's a goddess. Fight breaks out, bad marital spat, and this is the one that kind of ends it. So she's done. She leaves Peleus's hall and returns to her father's hall under the sea. And they're going to split visitation rights of baby Achilles, which she uses one of those visits, or she whisks the baby away one night when Peleus isn't looking. She's going to try again. She's going to try and circumvent her son's looming doom one more time. Okay, so she can't make him immortal. Okay, that way has been closed off. That ritual was ruined. She could try one of the other ways. Or we could make this story interesting and just go for the next best thing. Instead of making him immortal, why don't we just make his skin really, really hard, like horn or diamond or something like that? So taking the baby, To the river Styx, the river of hatred, the dark waters which separate the land of the living from the land of the dead. And she takes that baby, grabbing him by his heel. By the way, here's Charon with his boat and the shades of the dead crossing. So she takes the baby by the heel. Think of when you dip an Oreo in a glass of milk, or any cookie, I guess. But let's go with Oreo. So she takes the Oreo, dips in the milk, takes the baby by the heel, dips in the Styx. The part, of course, she grabbed by the heel does not get touched by the waters. The dark Stygian waters do not touch that part of the baby's heel, which Thetis, his mother, by which she was grasping. Same thing with the Oreo. Now, could she have double dipped? I guess. But then we wouldn't have a story.
Dad, why didn't Achilles just wear, like, plate armor on his sandals or something?
Because we then wouldn't have a story. Oh,
okay, sure.
Remember, Homer doesn't know this story. Homer doesn't know the story about Achilles being dipped in the river Styx. That's versions, or that addition to the story seems to have come after Homer. Because the characters in the Iliad, there are a couple times where the characters do muse whether, can he, Achilles, even be hurt? Like, he's the son of a goddess, right? But, like, he's mortal, right? Like, they're kind of unsure. I believe Hector is debating with himself. He's deliberating whether he should stand against Achilles and run at the beginning of book 22. And one of the things he talks about is, can I even hurt him? Can he even be harmed or wounded in some way? I don't really know. It does look like in book 21, Achilles' number is up when he's facing off against the rivers. It looks like the rivers could take him out. And it's through the intervention of Hera and then Hephaestus that the rivers are turned to vapor and turned aside. So Homer doesn't seem to know this story about the Styx. It would be a pretty cool addition to his story, pretty metal if he had put it in. He doesn't, though. So it seems like this was a later addition. Achilles cannot be harmed. So from here on going forward, Achilles can't be harmed in any place except for that part of his heel. He can be killed there. What? Yeah, he can be killed there. He can't be hurt anywhere else, but he can be killed by getting hit really hard in his heel. Like I don't know, like an arrow or something. I guess a spear wound would have done something, or I don't know if he would have stubbed his heel. Can you do that? Or you tore his Achilles tendon. Would he die from that? Maybe. All right, to the Aithiopis of Arktinos. So I like to start off with some sort of number, some sort of numerical thing. So the god of war Ares had 4 Amazonian daughters. Remember the Amazons, the warrior women of Themyscira. Ares had 4 Amazonian daughters, 4 awesome warrior daughters. They are Hippolyta, Antiope, Melanippe, and then Penthesilea. And this story will concern Penthesilea. She was the Amazonian warrior queen, and she received the summons to Troy, like 9-10 years after the siege started. And she finally shows up leading 12 Amazon warrior women to Troy to take on the Achaeans. And oh boy, do they give the Achaeans a run for their money. They whoop some Achaean butt. They are gladly welcomed by the Trojans. Priam is overjoyed. Whew! You girls could probably take on all of these Achaeans. Maybe even Achilles. So they do really well fighting against the Danaan, Argive, Achaean onslaught. Penthesilea faces off against Achilles. Hand-to-hand combat. But he, as this black figure vase depicts, Achilles, as it's written right here, Penthesilea, written right here, Achilles kills her, sort of in his name. She fights great, she fights valiantly, but, he is Achilles after all. Achilles kills her. But because this is kind of a messed up ancient Greek story. We can't just, okay, he kills her and that's that. When he kills her, something about the light leaving her eyes, he catches her eyes as the light leaves them, and he falls in love with her. What? Yeah, apparently he stabs her so hard that her armor falls off, and he falls in love with her. Apparently she's just so amazingly beautiful as she's lying there dead. What? Yeah. Now, this is observed by Thersites. Do you remember Thersites? Thersites, the ugliest man to come to the walls of Ilion. Thersites, he was that guy in Book 2 of the Iliad who, a poor person, was screaming and shouting true things about how Agamemnon, a rich person, was screwing them all over and yada yada, etc. And remember what happened? Well, a rich person told that poor person to pipe down, you're ugly and don't have any money, and beat him over the back with a golden scepter. That guy, Thersites. Okay, so Thersites, well, he's made his last joke now because he observes the combat between Achilles and Penthesilea over here. She's dead. Girl was wielding an axe, double-bladed, nice. All right, so we have Achilles here. Thersites makes one last joke. He witnesses this, and he somehow sees that Achilles has fallen in love with this, she's now a corpse, and makes some joke, some remark, must have been brutal, some sort of sick diss, bro, about how he had always loved her, or something like that, or, yeah, you like a corpse. Kissing. Something like that. Achilles is so angry by the remark, and remember Homer tells us that Odysseus and Achilles are especially upset by Thersites. He really gets their goat. So Achilles has finally had enough, and he grabs Thersites and kills him. One joke too many. That's the end of that. Woot! All right, you would think that the Achaeans wouldn't be too upset, because that guy was really, really annoying, consistently obnoxious. His jokes were often in bad taste. Sometimes they were pretty funny, but he had more swings and misses than home runs. So the Achaeans, however, don't think that he deserved to die. His jokes weren't that bad that he deserved to be killed, outright murdered for them. Right? Anyway, okay, therefore it is decided that Achilles cannot continue this war, say what now, until he obtains catharsis, cleansing, purification. It's an entire ritual. He's got to have a sponsor. He's got to go off into the woods or the wilds. He's got to find a running river or waterfall or something, and he's got to be washed. Literally, figuratively, metaphorically, it's symbolic of not just literally washing, blood off, but also symbolically washing away the sin, the stain, doing penance, saying, I'm sorry, over and over and over again, fasting, etc., until you get forgiveness for this cold-blooded murder of a fellow Achaean. So Achilles chooses his sponsor, Odysseus, nice choice, and they sail off to Lesbos to sacrifice to the gods and get this catharsis. So they set off. Here they are at Troy, and they're going to go take ship and sail to Lesbos, island inhabited by lesbians. While they're gone, because of course, while the cat's away, the mice will play. It's going to take some time for Goku to get to Namek. He can train that whole time he's flying off into space. We've got to build up some suspense, some tension here. Hope it lasts. So while Achilles and Odysseus are away, while they're gone out of the picture, a vast army, huge army, enormous host, unlike any the world has ever seen, of Ethiopians and Indians finally arrive at Troy. Here we have a map, ancient Greek perspective of what the world looked like. Remember, ancient Greeks believed that Okeanos, ocean, was a river which girded or encircled the circle of lands. Uh, so we have the three main continents. We have Europe, Europa, named after a kidnapped princess from Phoenicia, by the way. Africa, the continent down here, named after Afer. And then Asia, named after Asios, over here. So we have Asia, Europe, and Africa. The Greeks right here, the Achaeans, taking on the Trojans right here, sort of in the middle. So it's believed that in this story that the army of the Indians from the far reaches of the earth here in the utter east, and then from Ethiopia down here in the utter south. So they've come from the farthest corners of the earth, and it's taken them like 10 years to get here to Troy, but they finally have arrived, and they're going to take on the Achaeans. Woo! Wait, but I thought you said repeatedly, and Homer said repeatedly, that once Hector dies, Troy is doomed no matter what. If Troy could have been defended by anyone, it would be Hector, and now he's dead. Yeah, because it's going to take Goku a while to get to Namek, so we got to drag this out, right? Suspense everything. Okay, so these forces of Ethiopians and Indians are led by the king of Ethiopia, Memnon. Tell me if you've heard about this guy. Memnon, he is the son of Tithonus, a mortal hero, and Eos, an immortal goddess, saffron-robed, rosy-fingered Rhodolodactylos Dawn. He's the son of the dawn. Okay, so this guy, he's a king. He is son of an immortal goddess. He wears god-wrought armor, crafted for him by Hephaestus. Wait a minute. He boasts of superhuman strength. His mother's a goddess. Ooh, hold on. Awesome. King Priam is so happy that he has shown up, especially with this huge army. Maybe the old king thinks we can get out of this. He holds a huge feast for the forces of the Ethiopians and the Indians, honors and welcomes them as allies. Yes. Especially with Achilles gone. We could do this. We could take out these Achaeans. Woohoo! So the next day, after the big feast, Memnon's forces dominate the battlefield. Just rout the Achaeans, send them back to the ships. Memnon cannot be stopped. He's awesome. He's amazing, incredible. Thetis sees this. He goes, sees the Achaeans in such dire straits. She then swims all the way to Lesbos. She's a sea goddess, remember? Kind of mermaid-like. She informs Achilles, who should be in the middle or at least nearing the end of his purification catharsis ritual, tells him what's happening back at Troy. All right, we got to speed this up. Quick. You done with your training? I mean, your purification or whatever it is you need to be doing. Has the montage happened? Gonna need a montage. So he makes his sacrifices to Apollo, Artemis, and Leto, their mom. Apollo and Artemis' mom. Achilles completes his catharsis. Montage done. Training over with. He sets sail with Odysseus back to Troy. Returns to the Achaean encampment. He armors up in his own Hephaestus wrought armor, jumps aboard his chariot, drawn by Antilochus. Of course, it's Antilochus, not Automedon. Why would it be Automedon? Anyway, Antilochus, son of Nestor, one of Nestor's sons, he whips the two magic steeds, Xanthos, and not the river, and Balios, into a gallop. In the ensuing battle, Antilochus is slain, Antilochus slays Memnon's companion Aesop. In turn, Memnon kills Antilochus. When Achilles hears that Patroclus is dead, Achilles goes crazy, and he vows vengeance against. Wait, when Cleopatra. Hold on. Rewind. When Achilles hears that Antilochus has been slain, he goes crazy, and he vows vengeance on Memnon. It's Memnon. It's Memnon this time, king of Ethiopia. And so he faces off against Memnon in single combat, which was going to happen anyway, but whatever. Antilochus, Patroclus, a lot of usses. They're dead. All right, so Zeus decides he's going to make the warriors huge because it's a big army, right? It's a big field. We want everyone to see this fight. This is one of the battles to end the ages. So he makes them big, like giants, so everyone can watch this fight. It's epic. It's incredible. It's barely described. It's so awesome. But in the end, the Ethiopian king is stabbed through the heart by Achilles. It's very sad. However, he gets exactly what Thetis wanted for Achilles. I'm not quite sure why Thetis just doesn't do whatever it is that Eos, Aurora in Latin, the dawn, will do for him. Eos, the dawn, gets immortality for Memnon. Not quite sure that they make him like a minor god, or they put him in the sky as a constellation. But somehow Memnon achieves immortality, which is the very thing that Thetis was trying to do for her own son. But, whatever, digress. The army of the Ethiopians and the Indians departs, sadly, upon seeing the death of their leader. They just go. Because, of course, as we've been told repeatedly, Troy's doomed. But emboldened by Memnon's defeat, Memnon was like his equal in almost every single way. And the retreat of the Ethiopians and the Indians, Achilles, with Telamonian Aias and Odysseus on his heels, he pursued the fleeing Trojans all the way back to the Scaean Gate. This is it, guys. Achilles is going to take this town single-handedly. Hold him back, or he's going to do it. But not this time, because there at the Scaean Gate, slaughtering pretty much everyone in his path, exulting in his strength, killing everyone, laughing maniacally, begrimed with blood. Paris, from a high vantage, so on the walls or the tower, one of the towers of Troy, he draws his bow. He's aiming for somewhere on Achilles, probably the head, maybe the chest, big broad target. But Apollo, that Apollo, he steps in, guides Paris's arm, guides his hand and the bow and the arrow down towards Achilles' heel. And then Paris lets the arrow fly. Sails through the air, whistling shaft of death, and finds its target right in Achilles' heel. Which, of course, as we said earlier, the only place he could be wounded or, in this case, killed. This is one of, if not the biggest upset in Greco-Roman mythology. Paris, that guy, Alexandros, the shepherd. Shepherd boy, Prince of Troy, turned shepherd boy, turned Prince of Troy. Hate the playa, hate the game, that guy. Kidnapper of Helen, guy who started the war. Kind of a weakling, right? He's comic relief most of the time. We laugh and point at him and go like, Paris. He's the guy that takes out Achilles. He had Apollo's help. Yes, but he's the guy who kills Achilles. Paris, with Apollo's help, of course. But I love telling that to students. And they ask, well, what happens to Achilles? Who kills Achilles? Paris. Wait, what? How? Like, oh no, we'll get there. We'll get there, don't worry. And then we do, and then it's like, wow. What? Crazy times, indeed. Yeah, much better uh, fighters, much stronger warriors. Doesn't take out Achilles. Not Hector, not Memnon. No, it's Paris. So no one can believe it. Achilles lies unmoving at the Scaean Gate. Not sure if they're more in disbelief at, wait, why is he dead? The arrow is in his heel. Last time I checked, there really wasn't anything vital there. Uh, or maybe they're staring in disbelief at, who shot that arrow? Is that Paris? What? Either way, the Trojans, when they realize what happened, they erupt into victory cheers. Woot! That's incredible. That's great. That's a huge save. It's like the winning goal. That's the basketball that's thrown across the court that wins the game. It's incredible as the buzzer buzzes. This delay of the Trojans saying, "Oh my gosh, we may have this," allows Telamonian Aias, big Aias, to pick up Achilles' corpse. It could also be Menelaus. This statue is in Florence. It's in the main square, the Loggia. It's either depicting Menelaus with Patroclus, dead Patroclus, or it's Aias with Achilles, or both at the same time. Ooh. So we'll say this is Aias here picking up Achilles' corpse. He's going to take Achilles' corpse back to the Achaean encampment and the ships. Odysseus covers their escape. They make their way back. The Achaeans are pretty upset. They did not expect that this was going to happen. Everyone back at the ships is weeping, crying, screaming, wailing. That brings Thetis to the seashore, and the thing that she has been dreading this whole time has finally happened. She's finally lost her child. She's lost her son. Her screams, cries, weeping brings all the Nereids. Remember, there are 50 of them, so her 49 sisters. The Muses show up too. In their weeping, they conduct the funeral, wailing the fate of Achilles, while also wailing, bemoaning the fate of Thetis, having to suffer the death of her son. She is immortal. She'll continue on. Like, he'll never be replaced. She's never going to get over this. And she'll never get over this for all time. Raise a huge pyre, burn the body of Achilles, then take his ashes and bones, mix them together with the ashes and bones of Patroclus, put them in a golden urn. Agamemnon then has an enormous tomb raised on the beach of Troy, and the golden urn carrying both the ashes and bones of Achilles and Patroclus are placed within. And that is the end of the Aithiopis of Arktinos.